Welcome to the Father Focus podcast.
Father Focus.
Check.
Why are we talking about this? Why does it matter?
So shaping your kids into powerful people.
Bro, let that brother fly.
Check.
All right, let's go.
You ready?
All right, let's go. I was messing.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Father Focus podcast.
Father Focus.
Season 2. I think it's been awesome. We're talking all about manhood. And so this is going to be a super fun episode for us. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. But
Absolutely excited.
this is basically what we do all the time. So we have one of our best friends in the world.
Yes.
The founder of HiHello Labs. We've been friends for 20-something years.
My God.
Everyone, wherever you are, give a hand
Carlos.
clap. People won't even understand why. To our friend Carlos Flores, the 27th.
The
Let's go.
27th.
Thank
There
you.
is a real story behind that. Why the
Yes.
27th? Tell all of our
Technically,
listeners.
okay. I'm gonna say it. My first name is actually Jesus.
That's right.
In English, it's Jesus. Jesus Carlos Flores. No lie, I am the 27th Jesus in my family.
Wow.
That's actually stunning.
That's legit.
Yeah,
Will
you
you
know?
name one of your sons if you have another son,
Well,
Jesus?
No, I'm not gonna have any more
Wow.
children unless I adopt, and I probably will not name him.
So the
Jesus.
name is dead. You
Name-
killed it.
and will you name him Jeremy?
Well, no, I have cousins. Maybe they can.
What about Jeremias?
I love that name, yeah, but not for me.
Well,
I
thank
love it
you.
so much I will never use it. Just to be clear.
Guys, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Didn't think
dude,
you would
having-
ask.
Well, tell us.
I don't think we did. I think you told us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think I
as a
put
as a
myself in
producer-
I'm
box.
going to
Yeah.
produce your podcast.
I'm
I will
here.
be a guest.
I'm live.
Yeah.
No, we're excited, man. So
I'm just filling it for Jermaine. So
no, you're not.
yeah,
You're
Dude,
wearing,
you're carrying this in your
you're
own right.
doing it.
Father of 3. He's been married for how many years?
going on 11.
Carolina Flores, and
my
you'll
wife.
probably hear a little bit from her in a future episode.
Yes.
Or previous, we never know.
I guess you never know.
At some point, you will hear from Carolina. But Carlos, tell us, give us your bio. Like, what do people need to know about you?
Okay, guys. Well, here it is. I am a Mexican American. I am 37 years old. I'm actually
Grown.
38.
Yeah, dude.
Oh
I'm
God.
about to
that's
say,
so
yeah, you
old.
just turned 38.
I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a father of 3. I'm a husband to a beautiful woman who's actually been on your show or will be
Yes.
on your show. And I'm a fun guy.
You are a fun guy.
I've made plenty mistakes in my life. I've learned so much.
And some of those mistakes are hilarious.
I have them on camera.
I have 2
I
podcasts.
have some on camera as well. Do you care to discuss that?
No, those are inappropriate to discuss.
Inappropriate.
But I
It'll
have made
make
many
you go
mistakes,
viral.
like burning my chest with the sun with a suntan, and then I had to use eggs to help me out, which worked.
And
by the way.
mustard.
No, just eggs.
No, you also use
And
mustard.
that was
don't
mustard
lie.
and
Did I use
Mayonnaise.
mustard? I can't remember.
So Carlos, most people burn their skin. They use like approved medical
Like
products.
aloe
vera.
Yeah. Carlos, if it's in the kitchen and it's in the
It
refrigerator,
works.
it's fair game.
But to be quite honest with you, he's a great cook too. So he has,
I don't know if that has
experience
desperate times
with-
call for desperate measures. I had nothing. I was aching. I was burning. I was literally about to cry. I had jumped in the shower like for the 20th time with cold water because it was just killing me. But anyway, enough about that.
Yeah.
I am a CEO of HiHello. I'm
Yes,
the CEO
let's go.
of HiHello Labs, co-founder with my wife.
Yeah.
We started this business about 1.5 years ago. And I love it. I mean, it's grown to something that I had no idea would happen. And to be quite frank, it's all glory to God because I would not be here doing what I'm doing. if it
Yeah, that's
wasn't for
awesome.
him.
Hey, real quick, how can people find you?
Well, you do a podcast, which you didn't
Yeah, you have a
mention.
podcast.
Yes, I do. I have actually 2 podcasts. One podcast I have with my wife, Carolina, co-called. And the reason that started, which I'm sure we'll talk about it in the show, but it was just, obeying the Lord. And then I have a second podcast called Rebound and Rebuild, which I lead with a friend of mine, Coach Charles. And that just talks about, all of us rebound and we rebuild from
Yes.
the ashes. So.
That's awesome.
Nice.
So you find those on all podcast platforms,
You
obviously.
can find that on all podcast platforms.
And please
and
follow
YouTube.
them on Instagram. You'll
I
have
also
some
have my Instagram account.
pretty
at
cool
Carlos
inspiration.
Flores. I am the only Carlos Flores on Instagram.
No way.
Honestly, check it out.
All right,
Really?
we'll have to check that out.
I'm gonna
at
go
some
make a
point.
fake
Yeah.
account right now.
Everyone after me is either Carlos Flores 1, Carlos Flores
Wow.
2.
Dude,
You're the
dap
OG.
it up,
Okay.
man.
I'm
You're the
first
original.
Carlos Flores. I'm the original.
What's up,
I actually
bro?
got the account when like 2 years in, a year into it or something like that. But anyway,
All right, so we're gonna
I'm
do
the only
this.
Jeremy Quinteni.
are you really?
Yeah, I would assume.
No,
No. Are you the only? That dude, flaunt that.
How would Jeremy even know? He never goes on Instagram. So.
Well,
All right. So this can be more discussion style. We're talking
do
about
it.
manhood this season, right? And we thought it would be really cool to talk about the idea of ambition today. This idea that as men, there is an innate desire in us to conquer, right? Like, I don't know about you guys, but when I see like a mountain, there's something inside me that says, I want to climb to the top of that mountain.
and you just did.
Yes, I did actually. Yeah, it's a crazy story. 2,744 steps, a mile incline up a mountain.
How long did it take you to get up there?
I don't want to admit that. No,
No, I
I'm
mean,
kidding.
just-
It probably took me like an hour and 15, 20
Did you have to take
minutes.
like
that's
frequent
not bad.
breaks or what?
Yeah, but if my problem was halfway up, I was like, if I sit down much longer, I'm not going to be able to move. So you had to keep moving the whole
Yeah.
time. Like it was intense. But when you get to the top,
I mean,
it's
that's
totally worth
that's
it.
pretty. That's
Oh,
pretty.
it was crazy.
pretty
It was
good
crazy.
ways.
But I think there's something inside of each of us that wants to succeed. But the flip side of that is I personally know a lot of guys. It's kind of interesting. I'm not trying to like knock people. But like when I turned 16, I got my license as soon as it was legally possible. Like I wanted to drive. I wanted a job. But nowadays, like I don't know if you guys notice this, a lot of younger guys, they're in their 20s and they don't have a driver's license. They don't have a job. Like there's just like this delayed adolescence, but also it seems like there's a lack of ambition or drive in men. And obviously there's a negative ditch.
Well, part of that is because everybody. I say everybody. I'm caricaturing, but people get things very easily. You know?
Yeah.
Whereas you and I, and everybody's unique, but you and I, and when we grew up, man, things were not
I.
just necessarily handed
And
out
myself.
to us. You too, Carlos?
Yeah, dude. I worked hard for my money.
You
Yeah.
did. You did.
We did.
But
He
here's
still
kind of
does.
thing I want to talk about. Obviously, we know there's a negative ambition, right? Like there's an unhealthy drive that men can have, and it we've talked about that, destroys their family, destroys their marriages, drives them to addiction. But we also firmly believe, and I think we all live this, a healthy drive and ambition is important as a man.
Yeah.
So I'll throw out this question first. Is that something, because I know both of you guys are very hard workers, is that something you were taught? Is that something you think was just internally within you? Like what was it a combination of?
Honestly, when it comes to me, I was taught.
Okay. From who?
Mom and
Okay.
dad. Well, I was taught two things. Ambition was taught from mom. Hardworking was taught from dad.
Okay.
Even though mom's a really hard worker. So, but what happened was I saw them because, work their behinds off for us.
Yeah.
Like every year there was vacation for us, but I knew there was like hard work behind that. And I saw my mom sell food, or my mom create things and sell them because she's very creative. And then dad work overtime. My dad would leave the house because I grew up in this super small town, 10,000 people in this town, and he worked an hour away.
Okay.
And he would have to wake up every morning at 4:30, leave home at 5:30 to arrive there by 6:30, to then leave work at 4:30 to arrive home at 5:30. So he was like, and then not only that, like he had a side business, so he would work and then come home and work again. And mom was just, she was passionate about we could do better. We could push for more. I think mom created that spirit in me where it's like, hey, don't what's the word I'm looking for? Don't settle for what you think is okay, because what you think is okay, it's not. There's more. You could do more, and you deserve more.
Yeah.
So that's I got taught.
So it was
that
modeled
way.
for you and your
Yeah,
family. Obviously, you're
totally.
talking about your dad working 16-hour days, and yeah, for sure. What about you, Jeremy?
Yeah, so I would say for me, I had two parents who worked hard. My dad was a paper boy. Oh my gosh, I think he started working. I'm pretty sure he had a paper route when he was 12. I mean, seriously. So he was working. So a lot of people pay their way through college. My dad actually paid his way through high school. He went to a private high school.
Dude, that is
Paid his way
through
incredible. High school.
I didn't know that.
my dad
Like, who does
also
that?
started at 14.
Yeah. And so he did that. He bought his own car, when he was 15, 16. He just had some interesting stories about a paper route in New Orleans. And, for Christmas, he would get cards and he would write his, I guess his people that he delivered paper to. He'd give them Christmas cards and he would
That's
throw,
awesome.
and then they would give him a little bit extra money.
Dude, your dad was an
yeah,
entrepreneur.
he was.
Thinking
And
his clients.
Yeah, so he was doing things like that before it was the thing to do. Anyway, so he always had us working at a young age, and I think one of the big things for both my parents is they literally required us to do things.
Yep.
It wasn't, my mom did always cook, but early on she was forcing us to clean.
Do the dishes.
She would invite us in to
Right.
cook. That was like a kind of a welcoming thing where it was like, hey, this is a family thing. So she never forced that on me. She forced other things on me. Like my parents, at some point, they forced us to cut the grass. They forced us. And then it was like, all right, this is what we do. This is who we are. We work hard. And I think I got my first job when I was about 15 doing construction with an uncle, side jobs, side hustles. And, so I think that some of that is taught as an example, like you, Carlos, and probably my example, Nathan. I know your parents, you as well. Nathan and I, our first job was actually working together at an animal hospital.
Cleaning up dog crap all day.
Cleaning
Literally,
up
that was our job. And then I got
dog
promoted
mess.
to a dog bather, which was even worse than my previous job. But
And ask if that promotion came with any more money.
no, it did
Not
not.
a chance.
That's
What
why I
was it,
use quotation
$5.15?
marks.
I think we got
$5.15 an hour. Yeah, we were balling
$5.15
out.
an hour. We were so rich.
Yeah.
But I think some of those things, and what do you tell me what y'all think? Some of it is obviously instilled in you. I think some personalities, maybe parents, fathers, the people listening to this podcast, maybe hard work has been pushed upon you. Some people probably rejected it, in a sense, like you didn't. But so sometimes it's caught. Yeah. Sometimes it's taught. But at the end of the day, I think ambition is really about a preferred future, about something that is bigger than yourself, that
Yeah,
you want to
for
work
sure.
for, a drive that you may have.
Can I add something?
No.
Thank you. I think also an addition to that is genetics. Because
mean?
I think ambition comes through your genetic line.
Yeah.
Because I have cousins and that the parents, aunts and uncles work so hard working.
Right.
And I'm like, how did you miss it?
Yeah.
It's in us to work. We just miss it.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because that was one of the points I was going to make. I don't know if you guys found this to be true, but I would say it's a generational thing that I'm noticing. I find a lot, because we're talking about men. I personally have found, this is just my experience, a lot of younger guys have less ambition than a lot of guys that are my age, like when I was their age.
Yeah.
I personally find that. I don't know if you guys do. Maybe it's just depending on where I am.
100%.
There's not as much drive or push as they used to. I think some of it's cultural. I think it is technology. I think some of those things, things are at your fingertips. You don't have to work as hard, some of those things. But I personally feel for me, there's always been, as long as I can remember, this drive to be great. I've wanted to be great my whole life.
I think that's built into a lot of people. I know, so I would probably say I have a different experience than that. I mean, I know that there are people and there are young guys who would rather play video games and eat pizza than go out and work. But I'm around people, they're young mid-20s who are doing some stuff. And if you're listening, guys, I'm talking about you.
How many billionaires and millionaires are so young?
Yeah.
Nowadays?
I mean, people are hustling. I'm saying, I do know that there are
I'm
people.
sure there's both.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and maybe it's your circle, maybe it's environment, maybe it's your family, regions, maybe in some poorer towns. I heard TD Jakes one time. We all lived in Oak Cliff, which is kind of the ghetto. in
Dallas.
in South Dallas.
Yeah.
We went to Bible school out there, and I remember one time. Well, I don't know if I watched it online or if I was actually visiting his church, but it was very impactful for what he said and what he was telling his congregation, the people listening to him, is he said he was talking about vision and future and ambition, something along these lines, and he said, "Listen," he was talking to the single moms, and he said, "Listen, single moms, you're working so hard." He said, "But why?" Partially why one of the reasons is that you and your children and your children's children are living in poverty is because they don't have a vision. And he said, so what you need to do is get your kids out of the ghettos, get them out of these poorer towns,
Right.
and drive them over to North Dallas and show them the mansions. Like, give them something to be like, oh my gosh, I never knew this existed. And if I can,
100%, man.
yeah, if I can, I'll give a quick, another quick story, and y'all, shut me down after this if I'm talking too much. But I remember, I'm from New Orleans, Metairie, and we never really took too many vacations as a kid, but went to Texas, Mississippi. We never really went to the mountains. I never seen mountains. So when I went to college, I'm with one of our friends who was from England. He lived all over the really a lot of different countries, and we went to it was called Prayer Mountain or something like that.
Oh, yeah,
it was
Dallas,
really
yeah,
like
I
a
went
hill.
there. Yeah, I
You
remember
might
that.
have been there that time. We're all praying, and it's this hill. It was nothing, but like in New Orleans, we're below sea level. Like our biggest thing is Monkey Hill. It's not that big, So I'm on this hill in Texas that to me it was just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is awesome. So I bring this guy in. I'm like, James, you got to see this. And he, for the life of me, couldn't, he couldn't understand
how great it was.
why I was so impressed by this. Because I was on ground zero and he had already had so many experiences.
He grew up in South Africa.
He had deeper ambitions. He's like, I want to go to the Rocky Mountains. I want to go see the Grand Canyon. I don't want to see this little hill. This is nothing. And I think maybe ambition may work this a certain way. It's like we got to see things and open our horizon to different people.
I agree with that. It's about vision. And everyone's ambition is different, and everyone's place in where they are in the process is different. And there's no comparing, you being impressed by this
Right,
her mountain
hill.
to James being impressed with the Grand Canyon.
Right.
It's all about okay, where am I? And it's okay to be
At the bottom level,
at
like
the
I
bottom.
was. Right.
But I think the issue, and we always want to have an outcome of our podcast, right? I want to talk to the guy who lacks ambition or
Okay.
wants ambition.
Yep.
I want to motivate.
How do you get it?
I want every man that listens to this podcast to absolutely crush every dream that they have for their
Yeah,
life.
yeah.
That's our goal.
Right.
So you're a perfect guest for this because in the last 2 years, you've took crazy risk.
Yeah.
Built on ambition, right? What Jeremy said, a preferred future. You wanted more.
yeah.
So tell us a story. What happened?
Essentially, I worked for a nonprofit organization for 13 plus years, and I scaled my way up. And this is where also ambition takes you, wherever you are working. It's
You went from a janitor.
no, not that.
Well, no. In the warehouse.
No, I went from
But you did clean.
I love cleaning. I have OCD, so I love organizing.
He does. I live with the Mitch.
But I will tell you this: even those skills impressed bosses of mine
Right.
to put me in situations that leveled me up.
So you went from the mailroom. What was your final
all
position?
the way to creative international director.
Global. You oversaw
Global,
everything
yes.
globally.
I had about maybe about 85 creatives under me, technical all over. It was just, I loved it. It was
Making
great
really
fun.
good money,
Really
very
good
comfortable.
money, very comfortable lifestyle. We traveled the world. I was traveling everywhere, getting what's it called? Put up
First
to
class.
business
You were getting
you're getting
upgrades on all your
upgraded,
flights.
yes.
all the time.
Probably when you were 20, if this was your life, you would have thinking, I made it. I'm good.
Yeah, and I never thought it was.
Yeah, and everybody was proud of you.
Yeah, it was compliment after compliment,
Yep.
promotion after promotion. So everything looked like I was doing what I was called to do.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, okay, this is good. But I think there came a shift in me where I was like, but there's more. And the shift was my wife.
Okay.
My wife comes from a very entrepreneurial background. She's third, fourth generation entrepreneur. They have businesses, very wealthy families. So it was one of those things where I would see her, I would see my father-in-law, I would see my brother-in-law, and they're all starting these businesses. And it was like, oh yeah, I'm making good money. Like, if you want to, do the whole keeping up with the Joneses, I was definitely keeping up with the Joneses, and it was okay. But at the same time, it wasn't my thing. Like, I still depended on a boss. I still had to ask permission to go on vacation. I still needed to do things to be able to get, the
little things
the little
wanted,
things
yeah.
I had. And my wife kept telling me, we got this. Like, we can do it. We can do it. But what I loved that she did, and I think she'll talk about this in her episode, she never compared me to others.
Wow.
And she pushed me just enough to where I wanted to be pushed. Because I think there's this problem that we have as men, especially me, a Mexican man, that like women are typically like shut and put aside, and like you raise your kids, you wash, you clean, and that's all you do.
Yeah.
I actually had a partner that was a leader in her own case and ambitious.
She had her own nonprofit.
As her own, she had a
and all kinds of
nonprofit,
stuff, yeah.
and in fact, we started a business called HiHello Co. while I was still employed. And HiHello Co. started from
Was there any
nothing.
moonlighting regulations
No,
there?
because I really was just.
I'm just kidding.
I was honestly just paying for all of the mistakes we were making, because really we weren't making that much money.
Yeah.
So we started that business, and I was seeing her like hustle and do her thing, and she was very passionate about it, and I loved it as well. Now, I did a little bit of moonlighting while I was still working, but honestly, it was because there was no other way. What happened was I have a son with special needs, and when we got our diagnosis, financially, like, it just required so much that I was like, I either work my butt off for the situation, or I go ask
He
my
doesn't get the
father-in-law or
treatment
something.
he
doesn't
needs.
get the treatment he needs.
Yeah.
So I had to hustle, and that taught me a lot, which was gonna be my, you said what was your ambition, and I said my wife.
Yeah.
The other situation was, in that time, a negative situation.
Your son.
But it was my son's autism diagnosis. Even though it almost took us down as a couple, me personally, and my faith with God, it actually was used to catapult me into a
Where you
greater
are, yeah.
place. And sometimes we see things that happen that are bad,
Yeah.
but it's essentially like building us for what's coming.
So
Bro,
what'd you
it's great.
do?
So essentially, we started moonlighting, doing other gigs, and it was like, I'm telling you, like, God was blessing us financially on both ends. And I wasn't lacking responsibility on my job. I mean, I was killing it as well. So we had HiHello Co. And then it came to a point where I knew my time where the company that I was in was coming to an end. And the Lord spoke to me at an event, I remember. I got whooped. Like, you have no idea. And again,
Which is awesome. If I could just pause you right
Yes.
there. He said, I got whooped. In other words, he was spent, which means he was putting all of his life, effort, and energy into something. And you were already working incredibly hard.
Yep.
And again, I was there with you in the beginning when you worked in the warehouse. It worked your way up. Things changed, just random, changes. Worked hard all the way back then. And then when the time came for the transition that you'll get into in a second, you were already prepared because you had already learned how to work hard from day one. So the ambition was attached to the ability to already work hard.
exactly.
So,
and
or
it-
maybe the success in a sense, but
Yeah,
no, sorry.
it was different elements that we go through, but it's like, okay, for example, we work and then we get scolded or rebuked or something, or punished. Punished, I don't want to use that word, but and we think
They
of
got
it like,
spankings.
man, that sucks. Like, I'm done. Like, I'm not gonna go through this. Those situations build you up to withstand more and more and more.
Yeah.
And you could say, man, were you living in a masochistic relationship? Like, was it like, but honestly, it built me, and I am so thankful for where I was, because it built me to be the leader that I am now.
Yeah.
So I get scolded, and at this point, I'm at the highest rank that I could ever get to, aside of like being
Right.
you know,
In your department,
Yeah.
you're at the top. Yeah.
as far as creative goes, like I'm
You
at
have
the
to be
top.
like a president or vice
Yeah, I would have to
president or
like
something
yeah.
that. Yeah.
And I knew that wasn't gonna happen, and I really didn't want that.
Right.
So I knew, and I prayed to God. I was like, God, don't let this happen again, please. And in my prayer and in my tears, God told me, because I literally, like, it was so bad that weekend that TMI, well, not TMI, but I went into a corner and cried because I just couldn't take the emotional abuse I was going through. And I remember that night I was sitting with a friend of mine, and we were in a balcony, and literally with a glass of whiskey and a cigar on the other hand, and just reminiscing into a situation was happening. And right there I prayed to God, and I said, God, please don't let me go through the same thing.
Yeah.
And it was very public what I went through. And I said, please don't let me go through the same thing. That night God said, 2 more years, start prepping.
Wow.
I felt him say. And it was so powerful. Like, I was like, okay. So I called my wife that same night, and I said, hey, God's going to remove us from where we are in 2 years. So we have to make a way.
Gear
we
up.
have to, do something. And this is where, like, ambition and action form one.
Yep.
Like, take formation.
Yep.
Because there's one thing to have ambition,
Right.
but another's take
Oh, we
To
all know
move
those
on it.
people. You talk to them, dude. What are you doing? Oh, I'm at this job now, but dude, 5 years, bro. Let me tell you what I'm gonna be doing. You meet up with them 5 years later, dude. How's it going? You start.
I got a
Oh
new
no,
thing."
dude. Things have been tough lately, but dude, I'm gonna do it.
Or you know what? Oh, my boss was a jerk, right?
Yeah, I mean, they say what they're going to do, but they never do it.
Right.
And it's easier to blame than to take blame.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because most of the time we're not where we're supposed to be because of us.
yeah,
And 2 years went by. I got whooped again and again and again. And I couldn't understand why, because I was doing such a phenomenal job. But I do understand now, because it was building my character to things that I was going to now go through.
Yeah.
So 2 years go by. I forget about it. 6 months later go by.
so this is 2
Wait,
years
you
and
forget-
6
2
months.
years from the word I got
Okay.
from God telling me in 2 years you're
Okay.
leaving. I forget about this word.
Yeah.
After that 2 years, 6 more months go by. So 2.5 years
Okay.
go by when I got whooped again. And that day, I felt it.
You remembered the word.
I remembered the word, and I knew
This
I'm
is
gone. This is it. You were the first person I called to.
I remember you calling me.
And I left.
And I was like, Carlos.
he was freaking out for
what?
me. I think.
Because I mean, I didn't know all the backstory. I'm
Yeah.
like, Carlos, like outwardly, from my
Yeah.
perspective, I
Yeah.
remember being on the phone. I was actually in the backyard. I told Taylor, I was like,
But you
hey,
knew a lot of my story, because
Yeah, yeah,
obviously
right.
these two are the guys that I vent to about everything.
But I remember going in the backyard and I'm like, Carlos, are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
And dude, he like your calmness. You're like, no, dude, because you
Wasn't
and
I- dude,
Carolina,
yeah.
y'all went out to eat. You were like, no, dude, we went out to eat last night. We're
No,
good.
we were going to.
Oh, that's what.
We were
Okay,
going to.
yeah, but you were just like, no, we're good. We're done.
Good.
And I'm like,
Sleep on it.
okay,
Maybe next
yeah.
week. Think about it.
And to be
I was
quite
like,
honest
no,
with you,
no.
I would say, and I'm not tooting my own horn here, but I think
Are you
need,
sure?
I think you need friends to ground you.
Yes.
But then at the same time,
Yeah.
you have got to be able to hear from the Lord, and you have got to be grounded in your own convictions. So people may tell you, and look, if you would have listened to me, you would have been wrong. You know,
But this is, we have another buddy of ours, James.
if you would have listened,
you were just talking
he would
about
have been
him.
wrong too.
I called him many times prior
Right,
to
right.
that I wanted to go. He was the only one that asked me the tough questions,
Mm.
which are the questions you don't want to hear about. This, and that. And I was like, that's why. Like, and that day I didn't call him because I was like, he's going to ask me tough questions. So I called you, but I had all
You called me because I wasn't going to ask any hard
yeah,
questions.
he was gonna approve, and then he said no, don't do it. But I got home. My wife was, and I said, "Hey, this is what happened, and this is what's going to happen. What do you think?" She's like, "I'm with you 100%."
Yeah.
And that is where I speak to all
Proverbs
the wives
18.
out there, like, you want ambition for your husband, support him in the
Yeah,
process to
good.
get to the ambition, because as men, we want to know that we're doing things
Yeah.
or like us and God, like we are the leaders of our home, right?
Yeah. So my thing, I would ask, like, how do you get ambition? Like,
Well,
for those who don't,
Yeah.
who might feel stuck, how do you get vision? Like,
In
how
my
do you-
case, bro, it was circumstance.
okay,
I had a son with special needs.
okay,
That pushed me to get to where I needed to get. Because I tell you one thing, Sebastian needed to go to a special school. If I would have stayed where I was, there was no way we could afford that special school.
So what about people who don't have the, crazy circumstances, Nathan? That like Nathan, you didn't have any crazy circumstances.
Right.
Did
that
you?
made
Have you not?
Now
We all have. crazy
now
No,
now
what
they're
I'm
crazy,
saying
but I
is
think
then-
my scenario was a little bit different than yours.
Right.
But I think we ultimately made the same decision to literally quit our jobs, lose all sense of security and comfort in pursuit of something more. The word more, I think God had a big part to play, and the biggest part to play in both our circumstances. But I think for me, like, what is it in me that is driven for more? I think it's ultimately like I can see. I feel like it's just out of reach, but I feel like I can just almost reach and get what's in my heart. Like, it's close enough to where I don't feel discouraged that'll never happen. Like, I can see it, I can sense it, I can feel it. It's so close, and I think a lot of that is my relationship with God. Like, God pushes us towards more.
Yeah.
I think that's something inside of us. So, like, all of that stuff. But here's the thing, and I want to talk to you about this. You have to let go of what is to grab a hold of what's next.
Yeah.
Like you can't. Everyone wants both at the same time, right? And so like we didn't talk about this part, but you quit your job. You went through this whole season of like you were gonna just work for another network, do the media thing. Nothing happened, and through all those circumstances, basically you realize I'm actually created to build my own thing, build my own business, build my own company. And dude, you've actually crushed it. Like 2 years in, you've crushed it.
Yeah. It was funny, that process. Like, after quitting, you think, freedom, I'm out of here.
Braveheart, did you paint your face?
Almost. That's how I felt driving home. I was like, I was on my stallion, like, yes. And I felt so much.
Was it a
peace.
Mustang then?
And no, it wasn't a Mustang.
You got rid of the Mustang. Okay.
I felt so proud of myself.
Yeah.
Because I thought of me. And this is where, like, as men, like, sometimes it's okay to think about you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if I would have thought about my son or my other two kids and my wife at that time where I made the decision, I would have still been there because we needed the security, the health insurance, the money.
Yeah.
But I thought of me, and I was like, I'm going to do this for me.
Yeah.
But guess what happens? I left. A month goes by, and in my mind, I'm like, God's got me. In a month, I'll have something better.
Right.
Dudes, 8 months went by,
Yeah.
and I had nothing.
Yep.
And
You're eating through your savings.
At this
You're sitting
point,
at home.
Sitting at home, literally picking my kids up, making them. I was a housewife because
Can we not say housewife, house dad?
I was a house dad.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Father, focus.
Exactly. Sorry, wives. I was a house dad, but the great thing about it was, which it was great, and it was kind of sucky at the same time, because my wife started peaking during my demise.
Oh, okay.
And it's very interesting because I was jealous of her.
Huh.
Wow. Okay.
And I had to be so careful, and you guys don't know this. I had to be so careful to not destroy
Like tear her
her
down.
moment.
Wow, Carlos, that's very interesting.
Because for the longest time, I was the one peaking.
Right.
I was the one traveling. I was the one
Yep.
highlighting.
And she had to stay home and
She
take
had to
care
stay
of
home.
everything.
She was known as Carlos's wife.
Wow.
And it bugged her, I'm sure.
Because she
Because
also
she's
has
her own
ambition.
leader. She
and
has
she's
ambition.
driven. Yeah.
But what happened during this time, I was Carolina's husband.
Yeah.
She was speaking here, going there, living her dream. Her
Yep.
company, HiHello Co., which is our company, was starting to provide for us.
Yep.
And I was like, what about me, God? What about me? I left everything,
Yeah.
and here I am.
Yeah.
And I've loved you, and I've served you, and I've done all this. And you start blaming God for everything. And what I don't realize, or didn't realize then that I realize now, is like, God was giving me a break. I had worked my behind off for 13 plus years.
Yeah.
Non-stop, travel, work. Like, I'd worked my butt off, and it was like, it's okay to.
And he's
calm
literally not exaggerating. I remember going home. We would leave at 5:30, and Carlos, because of what he had to do, would stay till 10 o'clock at night. And I was like, wow. So everybody listening to this, let me just say two things, and then I'm sure Nathan's going to speak to this. We're talking about ambition and having a vision for something and being able to go after something. And the circumstances are obviously different in everybody's situation. But I guess that what is still needed is the fire to be able to go after something bigger than yourself. Carlos is our guest today, who his ambition was in the past. Not to say you didn't have ambition. You don't have ambition now. You do. We talked about it. Can I expand?
He just expanded his business.
So Carlos was in the something that happened in the past, and he's living in it. There's still fire. If y'all please come and tour this place in Orlando, it's so beautiful.
You'll love
And then Nathan is right in the middle of his journey. Like he's one who, let's say, is living in the fire.
I'm
right
falling.
now.
I've jumped off the cliff and I'm just falling.
No, but I'm saying, like, I just so appreciate here, like, I'm in the middle of you two guys, and I appreciate, man, you went and did it, and bro, you launched out and you're doing it, and nobody's saying you're crazy.
Yeah.
What it is, bro, you inspire me, and I hope you inspire everybody listening to this. Say, man, I can do it too.
Yeah.
I think the key, like to make this more practical, and we didn't even talk about all your wins. Like we've talked about the negatives. I mean, your business has taken off. You have what, like 7 employees now. I don't know the exact. I mean, like
He paid
like,
for lunch today.
And
he just had a huge.
It wasn't me, it was the
he,
by the way.
he just had a huge event, and I mean, like.
Yeah.
What's transpired the last 2 years has been absolutely incredible. Like,
He
it's been
expanded his
amazing.
office. Is that
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
And I'll tell you this, guys, like I had no idea this would happen. Honestly, when we decided to start another business called HiHello Labs here in Orlando, it was God. God told me. And it was us putting all our faith and all our eggs.
It was
into doing
extremely risky.
Very.
It could have failed.
We had no clients.
Right.
We had no people knowing us. I came from the nonprofit world. I was going into the secular world, which actually is where I wanted to go.
Right.
I had no contacts, nothing. And the business has flourished, not by promotion or anything like that. It's all been word of mouth.
Yeah.
So it's been organic growth. So I say that it was tough. It was very tough. It was 8 months of me calling these two when they were peaking as well. And you know what I love about it, and that you're saying is like, men, find yourselves brothers
Yeah, that's huge.
that can help you go through a situation.
Right.
Because I went through a hard time, and you guys were there for me, talking to me, knowing how's it going, what are you doing, traveling here, me traveling there. Like, you never left me alone, even though I was going through a pit in my life.
Hey, can I? I know we're running out of time.
Yeah.
I think.
We are.
But can we just quickly go to one thing? I don't know if this is too personal. If we can.
No, you can.
Tell everybody about what you were telling Nathan and I yesterday. You're like, there was one point where you had $7 in your bank account.
Yeah.
And you were like, how am I going to pay for this?
very
When you
personal.
know, bro.
How dare you bring that up?
No, you could have called me
Yeah.
and I would have taken care of
Exactly,
whatever
yeah.
I could have.
Yeah.
Nathan, we would have given you money
absolutely.
easily, but you didn't.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about that. And it was just very profound.
Obviously at this point we had opened the business, it was being successful, but within the success, and this is again, it's like you're gonna fall on your behind many times, and it's an up and down, like it's a struggle, but again, it's good.
Yeah.
As you scale, you'll find problems that are bigger. Me and my wife made many mistakes with HiHello Labs, and we paid the price. And there was also some personal issues, having a special
that could be cut.
actually, a special needs child having its own expense needs. So we went through a month, and we call it the 7-month month. The
$7.
7-week month. We literally paid everything: salaries, rents, mortgages, all of the above, and we had $7 remaining in our account. We had our pantry a quarter of the way filled. And because my wife is a believer of like going through your pantry before you, I'm like, seriously, come on.
I need another taco.
But there were nights, guys, where I had to go into the pantry, working at 2, 3 in the morning because work was still happening, and wanting to like get myself a PB&J because I needed to stay up, and knowing that there was 6 slivers of a loaf left, and know that my son needed to eat that he loved breakfast, Nutella with bread, and I said, let me just leave it for him. And I had no idea, and it makes me emotional, because I was like, God, what did we do? Like, why are we here? Like, I was obedient. I did everything.
Yeah, you told me.
Yet, I literally can't afford to buy bread. And like I said, we could have called everybody, family, you guys, and in a heartbeat, we'd have had something. This guy sent me $50 one day. And he said, hey, I want to do something for you. What do you need? I was like, well, do you want to buy me movie tickets or something? He sends me $50. Me and my wife went to a movie theater, and I had $30 to buy groceries.
Wow.
We bought eggs, milk, and like bread. Sorry.
That's awesome, Nathan. You've never sent me $50.
But it happened, and it was great. And I just felt like, okay, you know, God's in this.
Yeah.
And no matter, dude, I said, okay, God, like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what you're doing, but like, I'm going to start fasting and praying. And I fasted for 4 days. My wife and we prayed. And dudes, I promise you, the 5th day, we had $28,600 and some dollars deposited into our bank account, business account, for contracts I went through.
Man,
because literally that was the last day. If we didn't make money, the following day we would not be able to pay mortgage, rents, or school tuition.
Yeah.
And again, I'm telling you, we have a son with special needs that needs tuition, that needs insurance. And
well, that speaks to the power of prayer.
Yeah.
And it speaks to the love of God.
And I'm telling you, like,
care of us.
you go through the ups and downs. But what did that teach me? That it doesn't matter what I'm going to go through today or tomorrow. God's got me.
Yeah, absolutely.
He will provide. He will make a way. And I didn't call you guys not because I didn't want to, and not because, but I wanted him to come through.
Yeah,
awesome.
I get it.
And I saw him come through, and I know that was a life lesson for me personally.
Yeah.
Not even for my wife, for me. Because it taught me, like,
that's awesome, dude.
You don't depend on your own strength or your own money or what clients you have. You depend on one source.
Yeah. Ultimately, I think, like, there's a few takeaways.
Sorry for crying, guys.
No, that was awesome. Thanks for being vulnerable.
This is about men, and now
I'm just looking forward to $50 from Nathan.
that probably won't
send it to you after this podcast.
All right.
now it's your turn to give him $50.
guess,
So.
right.
I think like there's a few. I think there's a few big takeaways. The biggest one, I feel like, is the tension between the comfort of what we have today and the risk of reaching for more. Like, those two things are constantly going to be, no matter how far you go in life, there's always going to be a reality of, am I willing to give up what I have now for the potential of something more? Not the guarantee. It could totally fail. I could fall flat on my face. But I think there is something inside of us that God put in us that we want to take risks. We need to take risks. And a man will die if he doesn't continue to climb mountains. I'll say that. So I think your story is beautiful. Obviously, you're on the other side of it now. But, like, those moments,
There's many sides.
you could have been like, yeah, dude, I'm just going to go get a job. Like, I'm going to go bail out on this dream. This isn't working. I don't have enough money. But you stuck with it because there was something inside that said, I know we can make it.
Yeah.
And I think for men out there that are living that place, because I think a lot of men are probably settling for jobs. They know there's a dream in their heart. Like, go after what it is inside of you. Maybe at first it's a side hustle that you do, but there's going to come a moment where you have to take a leap. Take the freaking leap. Like, take the leap. Go after what's in your heart. I think you'll be shocked what happens as you take the risk and go after bigger things. And that's, I think, the whole message of this whole episode is ambition for more. Go after something. Just do it. It's a good slogan. It works. And hopefully encourages you guys. So thank you guys for listening to this podcast. Connect with Carlos on Instagram. If you're in the Orlando, Florida area, HiHello Labs is the premier podcast media company in the city.
It's the only one.
Yeah. Well, it's not the only one, but it's the best one for sure. And check out their podcast, Co-Called and Rebound and Rebuild. And we appreciate you guys listening to us. And we will catch you soon on the Father Focus podcast.
Out.
Peace.